Today I'll be using the Amira top sewing pattern to make this modest loose fit blouse with sleeve tabs and belt options. You can download the sewing pattern in the description below. So we have all the supplies we need for the Amira top. I have the 1/2 inch buttons, 2 of them, the fuse, the pattern, and the custom Cover Me Chic pattern available on Spoonflower. I have the link below in the description. This is a woven fabric and I laid it out. It's about 45 inches wide. I laid out the pattern and with the weights, and now I'm cutting out according to the instructions. Don't forget to download the Amira top. The link is in the description. Make sure to mark all of your notches, all of the circles, so that you can follow along and everything matches up the way it's supposed to. Now that I have all the pieces cut out, I'm going to fuse the front and back facing and trim the edges. Then I'm going to pin it at the shoulder and pin it at the front to the dot if you marked it on your pattern. So pin it here, and I'm gonna do the same thing to the front yoke. I'm gonna pin it to the dot, pin the front yoke to the back at the shoulder seam. Make sure you match the shoulder notches. I'm gonna pin the notch first, and then I'm gonna pin the rest of the shoulder. You match the notch, and then you pin the rest. You do the same for both sides. Then we're going to take it over to the machine and sew. Here I'm sewing the front facing, right sides together at a 1/2 inch seam allowance at the shoulder. And then I'm going to sew the front to the dot at a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Then I'm going to do the same thing for the yoke and the back, the front yoke and the back. I finished all of the edges, and now I'm going to attach the front facing and back facing to the back and the front yoke. I'm matching all of the notches and the shoulder seams, pin it in place, and then I'm going to take it over to the machine and sew it at a 1/2 inch seam allowance, and then understitch the facing so that it stays in place. Here I'm trimming the next seam 1/4 inch, and then I'm going to clip the curved edges so that it lays flat. You basically you just clip where you see a curved edge. You can take it over to the iron to iron flat and iron towards the facing, or you can just, do it as you're sewing it. And I'm sewing it about 1/8 of an inch away from the seam. So this is so that the facing lays flat. So this is called an understitch. Now I'm pinning the front facing to the front yoke to the dot where it's been sewn on both sides, and I'm going to take it over to the machine and sew at a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Now I'm clipping the corners and trimming it down, then turn it right side out and press so that it lays flat. So now that I pressed it, I'm going to start on the faux pocket flaps, and I cut it at a 45-degree angle just to give it more interest because this is a stripe. So I'm going to sew this at a 1/2 inch seam allowance, and then I'm going to trim the edges, clip the ends, and turn it right side out, then press. The option is to do like a top stitch about 1/8 of an inch away from the side. You don't have to do this, but it lets the flap lay flat. And I started to do that with the yoke, so I'm going to continue that with the flap. So now that the flaps are pressed and top stitched, I'm going to find the notch on the top yoke and match that to the flap. And basically I'm just going to pin it, and then I'm going to attach the bottom part and sew the seam. If you want to, if you feel more comfortable, you can sew it first and then come back and attach the bottom front piece. I'm matching the notch from the center front and matching a notch on the flap area, just pinning it, and then I'm going to take it over to the machine and sew that at 1/2 inch seam allowance. Now I'm sewing the front yoke to the front bottom at 1/2 inch seam allowance, and I'm going to finish the edge, and then I'm going to top stitch at 1/8 of an inch from the seam, as I did with the flap. Now we're going to sew the sleeve tabs. Put them right side together. There's 2 of them, so there's 4 pieces. Sew that at 1/2 inch seam allowance. What I'm going to do after I finish sewing 1/2 inch seam allowance, I'm going to cut it 1/4 of an inch off and then clip all of the edges, turn it right side out, and then top stitch it at 1/8 of an inch from the side, as I did with the pocket flap. For some reason there was a glitch in the matrix and I did not tape the top stitching of the sleeve tab and the belt loop, so just follow along in the instructions and you can be able to get that done. So right now I'm going to put on the buttonhole. Just make sure it is centered and you measure from the dial on the left hand side to make sure the buttonhole is big enough. So I'm using about a 1/2 inch button for both of them. So you do this to both sleeve tabs and then you cut out the buttonhole. So now I'm going to mark where the sleeve tab goes. I'm just putting pins at the end of the pattern mark. This is on the wrong side of the sleeve. I'm going to do this to both sides. Draw a line so that I can put the sleeve tab at the edge of where I marked the line. I'm pinning it in place. I'm going to sew about 1/4 of an inch away from the edge. Then I'm going to fold it and sew 1/4 of an inch away from the edge. So now I'm going to take it over to the machine and show you how to do that. So right now I'm just, back stitching 1/4 inch away from the edge, clip all of the fabric threads, fold it, and then sew again at 1/4 inch away from the folded edge. Now I'm going to pin the sleeve to the body. I'm going to match all the notches. Right now I'm matching the front notch on the sleeve to the front notch on the front, and then matching the dot on the sleeve to the shoulder seam. So once you match all of the notches and pin in place, I'm going to take it over to the machine and sew at a 1/2 inch seam allowance. So now we're going to work on the hem. I like using the hem foot because it's very clean, very fast, and very professional. So this is a 1/4 inch hem foot, and basically I'm just folding it 1/4 inch, then folding it again, and then feeding it into the hem. And because this is a curved hem, this attachment works really well, and it gives you a very professional finish. If you haven't already, you can download the Amira top pattern in the description below. So now I'm finishing all of the edges. This is the side seam for the front and back, and I already finished the sleeve seam, and then I'm going to pin it together and sew it at a 1/2 inch seam allowance. So just match the sleeve seam from the front and the back, and then you're going to match the side dots where the belt loop goes, and then just pin in between, and we're going to sew it at a 1/2 inch seam allowance. So you start right above the vent, back stitch, and sew at a 1/2 inch seam allowance. So now we're going to hem the side vent. We're going to fold it at a 1/2 inch and then fold it again. And the same thing goes for the sleeve hem. We're going to fold it at a 1/2 inch and then fold it again. And then top stitch right on the right side. Right now I'm marking where the belt loop goes from the dots, and I'm attaching the belt loop where the pin is. So I just fold it over a 1/2 inch to match where the pin is. And then I'm going to top stitch. So now I'm sewing at a 1/2 inch away from the edge and back stitch over the seam so that it doesn't come apart. And you do that to both sides. So now we're going to sew the sleeve hem at a 1/2 inch away from the edge as well. Now I'm going to attach the belt loops. I'm just going to back tack over the side at about 1/8 of an inch from the edge, and you do that to both ends of the belt loop. So now I want to tack down the facing to the shoulder seam allowance so that it doesn't flip out when you're wearing the top. Just match the shoulder seams. Now I'm going to pin together the belt and sew that at 1/2 inch seam allowance at the center back. Now spread open the seam allowance and you can iron it, but right now I'm just going to pin it and matching the center back seam. So you can just put along the edges, and I'm going to sew this at a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Now I'm going to leave an opening about 1 inch or 1.5 inches so that I can turn the belt right side out. Now right now all you have to do is clip the edges 1/4 inch and then you're going to turn it right side out. I'm using a loop turner or a tube turner to turn the belt right side out. I'll have a link in the description for this one that I use, and I'm also going to have a link in the description for the attachment for the hem, because people always ask me about what attachments I use. So I'm going to have both of those in the description. Now I'm going to top stitch this at 1/8 of an inch away from the edge, just like I did the pocket flap and the front yoke. Now I'm going to mark the button. I mean, you could do this ahead of time, but just for the sake of this video, I'm just doing everything one by one. So I just mark where the button goes just with chalk, and then I'm going to sew that on by hand. You do that on both sides. Now that the button is sewn on, I'm going to fold the hem 3 times and button the sleeve tab, and you're done. You can download the Amira pattern right underneath this video. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.